Okay, good evening to everyone. Thank you for being here. For those I don't know, I'm Tony LaFawn. I'm the town supervisor, and so I have the honor and privilege of welcoming everyone on behalf of our town board. And Andy Moore, who is your liaison to this committee back to the town board, but Paula Metzler, Rob Quinn, and Linda Cole. And again, we thank you for your willingness to serve on this committee, a very important committee as we move forward. A little bit of a time commitment, so thank you in advance for that. Wanted to just go through a couple of items, and then we'll let the group and our team kind of lead from there. So first, just a couple of points of order. So we're taping and recording these sessions, so just as a courtesy FYI to you, that way they're not being shown live, but we are capturing the information. That way if anyone would like to go back and take a look or watch, they're able to do that as well. There are quite a few documents in your package. One of the documents is the charge and the information that I'm going to be sharing, so I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I wanted to hit just a couple of highlights as we go through. Our town staff, and you'll have an opportunity to meet all of them if you haven't met them already. A great group that have been here and supporting the community for many, many years, led by Mr. Costello, who's got more years than I am old, and Mr. Bilo, who is our recreation director and actively working on a rec master plan. So we have 3 plans that are currently going on at the present time. So it's the Shadow Pines land use plan that you're involved with. We've got our comprehensive committee that we kicked off last Tuesday. And then the Parks Master Plan. And the Park Master Plan, we go through and update every 5 years. We need to do that so that as grants come available, you have to have an updated plan, at least within the last 5 years. That's kind of one of the table stake items that we need when we go to apply for any type of permits. So Chris is in the process leading that, and certainly he can share any information about that as we move forward overall. The intent of Andy being the liaison, if there's any questions, he can bring those from the committee to the board and then vice versa. He's not a voting member. He is the liaison. So our team, Jim and Zach and Chris, are here to help lead through the process. They're not voting members either. It's the 12 of you that are the voting members, and will be making the recommendations back to us. And again, we'll be looking to have a report back to the town board sometime by the end of March or earlier, depending upon what you need and what you're looking at and things that you're discussing as part of that. I would encourage this group as you go through, if you would like to bring in different groups or entities, please feel free to do that, and staff will coordinate that. So for instance, if you wanted to bring in a sports group, if you wanted to bring in the school district, if you wanted to bring in some other organization to talk a little bit about what they might do or offer or bring to the table. We'll also make available our town attorney, so that if you would like to have some time with our town attorney about some of those things that might be permitted, not permitted, watch outs, things like that, we certainly will make Mr. Horwitz available as well as we go through. As I said, it's kind of a clean slate. The only thing that the town board is doing outside of the open and vacant land, the town board is looking at putting together a solicitation of interest for the Clark House, and we're working on that right now with the town attorney. And we want to go out to see who outside might be interested in doing something with that, continuing it on as a restaurant or some other type of use that will be appropriate with the neighborhood and the property overall. And we're looking to do that probably the end of October, early November, to get that out and at least start to have some dialogue. The building hasn't been occupied in a couple of years, and we just want to make sure that the building is not going to, continue to go downhill, really to breathe some life back into that building. It's a local historic site, and we would like to continue to maintain that site. So we're doing and have been doing a lot of things, if you've seen, around the facility itself, taking down the dead trees, dead, dying, or diseased trees. We've taken those down. Hopefully, and I'm going to drive by when I leave here tonight, but hopefully the grinder is on site, and we'll have everything ground. That's great. So that's about a week or 10 days late. They had a part that was needed to be shipped, and we finally got that in the end of last week. It's all fixed, and probably, today is Tuesday, probably by the end of day Thursday, that pile will be gone. That machine works pretty quickly, and we'll have a lot of chips laying around. So we'll continue to do some work in and around the Clark House. We've been cleaning gutters, checking the HVAC, just making sure it's something that we can continue to look at utilizing as we move forward. As to the rest of the property, so that's 5 acres. The rest of the property, the other something in the neighborhood of 207 acres, that's where you come in, looking at what should we do with that property, how we should use it, what are all of those different uses that could take place, and that's where you come in to come back and make those recommendations overall. The guidance certainly from the town board is that as we look at it, what can we do to provide the best and the highest use for the broadest base of the town overall as we take a look at that. And then certainly some of those things, how do we implement, how do we potentially fund, even just cutting grass costs something. So if you came back with a recommendation that we should have a library in the center of that property, for instance, that doesn't come without some funding. And so, any thoughts or ideas that you might have along those lines certainly are encouraged and welcome as we go through. A couple of items that are not on the table for consideration is so as part of this, we're looking at the Shadow Pines property. We're not looking at the quarry. The quarry is kind of a separate and distinct piece of property that is going to be actively mined for the next 30-plus years based on the current permits and feedback that we have from DEC and the current owners. So as we go through, that is something that the comprehensive plan will be looking at. You as individuals, as individual residents, if you have thoughts or ideas, would encourage you to certainly feed that into the comprehensive plan. So if you have any thoughts as to what it should be, what it should look like, any considerations, the comprehensive plan will have that as part of their overall umbrella. And then the town board has discussed that we are not going to be golf club operators. So that doesn't necessarily mean that if somebody came along and as part of your review and study said, like to open up a couple of holes or a driving range or something like that, and you thought that that was something that might be appropriate, certainly the town board would be willing to listen to that. But we will not be in the business of operating an 18-hole or a 9-hole golf course, the town itself. That would have to be somebody that would have to be a private entity that would do that overall. So with that, I will just take a step back. I'm going to turn it over to a great team, as I've mentioned. I poked a little fun at my friend Jim Costello. Jim Costello and I have worked together in different capacities over the last 38 years in and around the town. And Zach, Chris Bilo, and then Mark Valentine. You'll see Mark unfortunately had a death in the family, and he'll join you probably at one of your next meetings that you have. But it's a great team, and I've got the utmost respect for Andy Moore, who's a great partner in local government, and he'll be here to help and assist as well. So with that, gentlemen, I'm gonna back away from the table and let the real experts lead you through the process.
Thank you very much, Tony. I would like to first of all, again, reiterate what Tony said. I'd like to thank you all for participating. It's, I think it's going to be an enjoyable process. I hope it is anyways. There's going to be a lot of work to do. Tonight's going to be a kind of get-to-know-you evening. We're going to try and get you home as quickly as possible because we're not going to be doing anything substantive tonight other than get to know each other. We're going to lay some ground rules down, and we'll talk a little bit about each and every one of you as well as us so that we all know who we're dealing with. And hopefully by the time we get done with this in March, that we'll all be friends and all be on the same page. So with that, I'm going to start. Again, my name is Jim Costello, as Tony noted. He jokes about how old I am and how long I've been here. I have been here 38 years, but he forgot to tell you that he actually hired me 38 years ago, and he'd been here for 5 years before me. So we'll leave that as it is. I can remember starting here back in 1980 when there was a cornfield out there, and there were a couple of baseball diamonds, and then subsequently I was involved with the approval of the golf course through the 80s, and have now seen it revert back to what it was prior to the golf course. So with that, I look forward to working with each and every one of you. As Tony noted earlier, the staff, all of us, are here to support you. We do not make decisions. We provide you materials as you need them so that you can make a good decision as to what we're discussing. And if you need anything from us at all, we're going to provide you with all of our email addresses. I know you already have those. So if you have any questions or concerns as we're going through the processes during the weeks, by all means, email all of us and let us know what your needs are, and we'll be certainly happy to get those to you as quickly as possible.
Good. Thank you, Jim. So next step is the welcome part. Staff's going to go through, welcome ourselves, introduce us, tell us what we do here, why we're here to help you, and then after staff's done introducing themselves, we'll go around the group as well and just ask who you are, why you're here, what your interests are, simple things like that, just to get to know each other a little bit better, okay? So Jim, he is done.
I'm done.
He's done. He's done. You sit back for a little bit. My name is Zach Nersinger. I'm the town planner for the town of Penfield. I work up in the planning department right next door to him. My role here with this committee is, again, to help you with anything that you need, both with the technology side of things, communications, research, whatever it may be, mapping, all those good things. I was with the Moratorium committee that served a couple of years ago. And Jim was there with me as well, so we all have a very good background in this and what was recommended out of that moratorium committee leading into this, which that committee, as you know, led to the purchase of the purchasing process of the Shadow Pines Golf Course. Other things I do in the town, I work with the planning board directly. That's my job, is to facilitate planning board applications that are coming in for new development, both between the boards and the applicants and developers, so I facilitate that process and work on plans and studies like this as well. So that's my job, and I'll kick it over there.
Are you going to go, Andy?
No, you.
I'm Phyllis Seeley. I work on communications for the town, mostly external, but also some internal. So any media relations, updates to residents. So my role in this committee is to listen and to share information with the residents and make sure that everyone knows what's going on, and help messaging from the committee out to residents as well. So, and I also served on the moratorium committee and the mixed use district and whatnot. So just keep things moving and open and accessible.
Good. Chris Pilo, I am the Recreation Director for the town. I've been here now 17 years, so I'm going on 18. Not quite as long as Costello, but getting there. From our department, from the department that I work with, we coordinate all the town activities, special events, any of the recreation activities that you see around town. Also serve as the liaison between the youth sports groups, as Tony mentioned, the school athletic department, where any of the shared facilities or field usage, they kind of coordinate through our department. Probably the biggest piece right now is, as Tony mentioned, the master plan. We're redoing that or updating that. That was last done in 2012. We've got a committee of 12 people that have started that process back in April. And they're meeting on a monthly basis now, where we've broken our master plan down into really 4 key components that'll kind of tie into what we're doing here, from a programs, parks, people, and facilities sort of component. And we've got subcommittees that are sort of focused on each one of those areas. So a lot of the information that we're gathering as part of that plan, I could see probably having a lot of tie over into this. So if there's questions as to how it relates back to what potential future use between the two groups, I think there's going to be a lot of synergy there.
Thanks, Chris. Why don't we go around the room, tell us who you are, how long you've been a resident, what your interest is, and why you decided to join us. We'll start with you.
Okay, you Ryan.
Yeah,
Just
I'll
keep the
leave
flow
charge.
going.
Ryan Teeter, I'm almost a 35-year resident, minus 6 years in the middle where I tried to leave. I went off to college in faraway places, only that I'd come home and begin my own family, approximately 20 homes away from my parents, so literally coming full circle. I wear many hats. I'm a school counselor by day, not in Penfield. I am an assistant brewer at a brewery downtown. I'm a former food truck owner. I have 3 small children at home, and I guess those are the bigger ones. So wanted to join the group. I grew up playing golf on the courses. I have a personal connection with them, and I guess I'm extremely interested in not only what we all decide to do, but what potential the land has, and trying to minimize the burden that it may bring to pocketbooks. So balancing not 280-ish homes, but also trying to level it out somehow. All done.
Okay. My name is Jenny McCullough. We have lived in the very same home in Penfield since 1977. We have seen the town grow literally around us, from farmyards behind us, across the corner. So I'm retired. I have particular interest in the amount of development and its impact on the towns and parks, to see if there's some kind of equilibrium that we can find here. And my particular interests are working with senior citizens and exploring their wants, needs, desires. And having been on the school board for my 3 long years, I would like to see how the younger kids are impacting the growth of the schools, and see if there's some kind of accommodation that the town could make with, like, selling some property and then buying some property to accommodate some of the interests that I think the seniors may have. Plain and simple.
Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Wrench. I've been a I've been a resident of Penfield since 1977. I had the privilege of living right next door to Mr. Bruce over there for many years, and he moved away. I hope I didn't have anything to do with it. We remain friends, though. I'm very honored and happy to be here, because I think that the town's acquisition of this property, this beautiful property, right smack in the middle of the town, that, as Vinny said, growing so fast, is just an amazing thing. It never happened, and we have an opportunity to do something really spectacular. So it's a great honor for me and a pleasure to be here. A little more about me. I recently retired. I'm a lawyer, immigration lawyer particularly. That's what I did for many years. But now I have enough time to give this committee my best, and I will. Now, having said that, it's 7:20, and the sun is about to go down. And I don't know if anybody else is Jewish. Well, if the sun goes down on this particular day, it's a very solemn holiday. And as I mentioned to, I believe, Jim and I think Zach, I didn't think I was gonna be able to be here at all. Luckily, the services don't begin till 8, so I'm gonna be able to hang around for another 15 minutes, and then I'll be sure to catch the rest of this on however I get to see it. So, thank you all for being here. I'm delighted to be, and honored to be one of you, and I look forward to working with you.
Thanks, Steve.
What is the holiday, Steve?
That's called Yom Kippur.
Okay.
That's when God decides who's gonna live and who's gonna die.
Why'd you point over here when you said that?
Sorry. My name is Eric Metzler. I've been a town resident for 10 years now. Actually grew up in Pittsford, and when my wife and I were looking for a place to live in town, we settled on Penfield, and we couldn't be happier. We have 2 boys in 2nd grade and 4th grade at Cobbles, and we absolutely love the school. It's amazing. So we've been converts to Penfield for sure. We love this town. So I wear a lot of hats. Ryan stole my line. I like to say it a lot. I am a pretty avid mountain biker, runner, cross-country skier, hiker. I've been involved not just only for my personal sake, but with the community for a while, and in a lot of those capacities. I've been a cross-country ski coach. I teach mountain biking during the summers and spring and fall as well. And I'm really interested in, I was so excited when this space became available and for the town to use. I would love to see a place where we have some great trails to use. I do a fair amount of trail running, and I run through Linear Park and places like that, but it's just not as nice of a place to run as some of the other parks around town. So I would love to see some of that come to Penfield, especially at a place that's within a mile of my own home. So that's kind of my particular interest, is seeing the space being used for a lot of that type of recreation, and hopefully no more, no offense to anybody, but no more ball fields and golf courses. We have a lot of those. And I would like to see some more, just kind of natural recreation uses.
Thank you. Lance?
All right, my name is Lance Sieber. I was actually born in Penfield, but my family moved away for a few years, but I've lived back in Penfield for almost 30 years. And I'm retired now, so I have time to start doing things like this, aside from my grandkids. And I just want to make sure that I want to be part of whatever happens with this property and make sure that it's just the best for the whole town of Penfield, the best use.
Trish Bhattacharya. You can call me Trish or Trisha. I go by either. I lived here for 8 years. I moved here from Pittsford, but I grew up outside Philadelphia, so I'm not native to the area, but I've lived here for a long time, 25 years. I worked for Xerox Corporation, global marketing. Mom to a 16-year-old, and why did I join? Well, I live over by Shadow Pines. I live off Clark Road on a beautiful street called Denonville Ridge. And the thought of hundreds of houses going in there just was devastating to me. And I got very involved with the Save Shadow Pines movement. I was one of those people that walked around with door hangers and put them on people's doors. I was extremely happy the day of the vote, and it restored my faith in humanity with that 80% save the property vote. So I'm very passionate about open space. I'm also, being the mom of a 16-year-old, I'm frustrated with how big the schools are. I think it's sad when a kid can't make freshman baseball or gets cut from 8th grade lacrosse. I think that our schools are too big and more houses would just make them bigger. But other than that, I'm really happy with the schools, and I have no second thoughts about moving from Pittsford. I'm extremely happy with the education that my daughter's gotten. So that's basically why I'm here.
Great, thank you.
Beth? Okay. Beth Baris. I did not grow up in the area, but but the Barises have been here for a while. And we've owned a house in Penfield now for about 11 years. I am also active outdoors person. I mountain bike and trail run. I'm real interested in trying to maintain the open space at Shadow Pines. We have 2 boys that are in the school district. They have also participated in the Penfield Youth Lacrosse and football programs. I was vice president of the Penfield Youth Football Program. So I wrote you a few emails asking for fields. So just in that sense, I hope to represent parents of young kids and excellent use of this nice resource that we have here in Penfield. I also work at Xerox. I'm an engineer there, and so project management skills are up my alley. There you go.
Bob Peterson, resident of Penfield since '64. That's 54 years, I guess, something like that. And lived across from Shadow Pines, the golf course just across from the 9th tee for 30 years. And the lot next to me is part of the Shadow Pines open space, so I share a property line. Absolutely heartbroken when the golf course shut down, but totally elated when the vote passed and the town was able to secure the property. I always felt that should have been gifted to the town by the Dolomite Corporation, but that's another issue. But thrilled that we have the chance to do the right thing with the property. And the right thing was not 250 Ryan homes or any kind of homes. I had been a member of the Moratorium Committee, and our first recommendation, our strongest recommendation to the town was to secure the property and retain it as recreational, low-intensity, open space. So the idea of hiking trails and that sort of thing fits, cross-country skiing perhaps. And I hope we all get a chance to tour. Those who haven't golfed there, you've got to see what we call the back nine. The southern portion of the property is just beautiful. It's just beautiful land, and we need those who haven't seen it need to get a tour there. And so I'm hoping that we maintain it as recreational use, and with an eye to the future, when that quarry stops operation, there's going to be a beautiful 150-acre deep water lake there. And it's my hope that we retain enough space for a future park to join that, as long as the town has access to that water. I'm not sure that that's true. I'm expecting that the quarry would make that available when they stop operations. So my other interest is that we do something smart, something good with the Clark House. I hope we get a good tenant in there to revive that beautiful space. And just 2 things. Jeff, I had the pleasure of working for many years with your dad at Kodak.
A lot of years.
And yeah, he's a good man.
Thank you.
Sorry to lose him. And Ryan, if you're an assistant brewer at Three Heads Brewery, I hope we all get a tour and see.
At least sample.
Future meeting sites?
Yeah, right.
Noted.
I'm Terry Bruce. I 40-year resident here in Penfield, and we had a couple of kids, lived next door to Steve for years, but we had a couple of kids went through school here, a daughter and a son, and they both did real well, and our son happened to move back here last year, so took a job at the University of Rochester, and so we now have grandparents that are taking care of the grandchildren some of the time. And I retired from RIT, and like Steve, I am honored to be part of this committee, to have the opportunity as well as the responsibility of putting some input into the whole discussion about
what we do with that property. It's a wonderful gift for the town and for the people that live here, and I think it's just an opportunity to have something incredible. And looking forward to that, and hoping to enjoy the company of all of you.
I'm Susan Cavanaugh. I'm an 8-year resident of Penfield. By day, I'm a solutions architect for a technology company based out of McLean, Virginia. So because of that, I work remotely, and I am in direct proximity of Shadow Pines, which means I feel the blasting just about every week. Sometimes it knocks the pictures right off my walls. But that being said, I became a very active member of the Save Shadow Pines group, now Friends of Shadow Pines, and really kind of came in at the sweeping end of it all. We were really making that final push, and we did our big session back in the early part of February, really working to try and make sure that we do right by what that property stands for and what that property really needs to be. And so my role here is to make sure that we hold true to our promise to the residents of this town based on their vote. What they've put in our hands now is to decide what to best do with that property. So I really want to make sure that we stand true to that and really do find the best use for that land. And I think that there's a good compromise of all the things that we talked about, from recreational space to open green space to trails and other things, and really spaces for kids that really deserve that, especially being so close to the school. I have a daughter just entered kindergarten this year at Scribner, so it's a new experience. She got right on that bus and with no issue, so that was great. So I'm really looking forward to being here. I'm excited to be a part of this, and I really think that we're going to do a really good thing here.
I'm Kelly Malley. I've been in Penfield for about 10 years now. I am a mother to 3 kids who go to Scribner Road as well, 8-year-old twins in 3rd grade and a 10-year-old in 5th grade. Where we live on Skyview Lane, so my backyard I share my backyard property line with Shadow Pines. And it doesn't look too pretty right now. I don't even let my kids wander back there because it's just full of yuck and deer and tick and a lot of yuck. So I would love to see that cleaned up, and the sentiments of what many of you have already said, keep it natural. I would hate to have any type of development back there. I just want to do what's best for the town. But by day, I am an assistant vice president of sales for First American Healthcare Finance. And I am very active in Penfield Little League. I coach several teams of softball, so just want to do what's right for the town.
My name is Jeff Taddeo. I've lived in Penfield since, on and off since 1974. I have 2 older brothers, and we've all been very active in the community, so we know a lot of people in town, which is great. I'm currently the treasurer for the Penfield Youth Lacrosse Program, as well as coaching, very involved in coaching, as well as coaching CYO. So you can guess I have 2 boys, ages 12 and 9, both go to Scribner. And as I said, I moved away for a while and lived in Columbus and Minneapolis, but when I moved back, there was nowhere, I didn't consider moving anywhere else. It was always Penfield. I take great pride in Penfield. I couldn't imagine living anywhere else, and I don't want to live anywhere else. And really that brings me to why I'm doing this. I definitely have some ideas of what I'd like to see done to the property, but I also realize that it's not just me who lives in Penfield, it's an entire town. And I want to do the best we can with the property. We have an opportunity here that doesn't come around too often, and we get to shape Penfield for something that's going to be for a lot of years to come. So I take great pride in what we're doing, and I think if we work together, we can make an outstanding fields or whatever we want to do, but we can make it the best possible. So thank you for letting me be on the committee.
Great job. Great job on all your part. I really appreciate it. It sounds like you're all committed to the community. We all consider you to be an asset to the community. That's why we selected you. And I'm sure you'll do a great job together trying to get to a final consensus as to what you want as a final product of the town board. We're going to go in. Just before I get started, we have been collecting comments from the public. Yes.
Could you take Tony's seat so we can all see you?
I'm sorry. Let me just stay here though for a second.
Oh, okay.
Stay there. We have been collecting from various departments comments from the general public as to what they might recommend or see as part of the process. We're going to share that information with you as time goes on here. Certainly, you can take it, dissect it, determine whether it's valid or whether it's not. You are going to be the ones that are going to make the final determination as to what the recommendation of the town board is going to be. So we'll place that in your hands. Before we get started, and it's probably not going to be that big of a deal for you because you're all sounding like you're on the same wavelength as to what you're thinking about each other and the town of Penfield and this particular site, but I do want to go over some ground rules just because we have to do that. And we've done that in the past. Bob was part of this process last time we had to do it, but I'd like to just go over them real quickly. They're in your packet. I'm not going to read verbatim what they are. I'm just going to hit the headings, but I want you to just be aware of what we're thinking. Steve, take care. We'll see you at the next meeting. Good night. First one, please show up on time and be prepared. We're going to be deluging you with a lot of information. Tonight's going to be your best night in terms of getting out at a reasonable hour. But we are going to be utilizing 2-hour periods from this point on. And I want you to be able to be prepared so that we can go through the materials that we provide you as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. And, and I'm sure you'll all do that. Stay focused on the topics being discussed. If you have cell phones, please put them on silence or turn them off. We will give you breaks during the periods that we meet with you throughout the evening, so you'll have time to actually go out in the hallway and make a phone call if you have to, or do whatever it is you need to do. So just stay focused on the goal at hand. We want you to be contributors to the meetings. We don't want people just sitting there quietly. We want you to interact. We want you to throw things out. There's no bad ideas here. Anything you throw out might be very valuable to the rest of us. So don't be afraid to contribute. Let everyone participate. Try not to dominate the whole process, but listen to others. Let them see what they have to say to you, and let's see how we can incorporate their comments into the final product as well. Stay on point and on time. We don't want to start veering off, because when we do that, we start losing time. If there's some things that we want to talk about offline, we'd be more than happy to do that with you, either after the meeting. We'll be here long after the meeting's over with, so if you need to talk to us after the meeting, not a problem. Or if you want to send something to us during the week, we'll try and get the information for you at hand as quickly as we can. Attack the problem, not the person. It doesn't sound like that would happen here with this group anyways, but stay focused on the issues at hand. Everybody has certain ideas. We may agree with them, may not, but they all have the right to express them, and we have to look at each and every idea to determine its value. We will take decisions. All the decisions that you make will be through consensus. We're not going to just pick two people and say, oh, that was a great idea, you guys are right, everybody else is wrong. All decisions and all recommendations that go to the town board will be done through a consensus program. And you may not get 100% consensus, but you may work to some point where everybody feels that there's a compromise that's worthy of sending out to the town board as a recommendation. And then finally, we're going to record all the documentation. All these meetings are being recorded. Again, Tony noted that. Please try to speak up if you can. And if you need to go back and look at these meetings for any reason, we can certainly set that up for you. If there's questions that came up, what happened on March 2nd or something like that, we can go back and get that information for you and send it to you so you can watch that portion of the meeting to get that information out. Any questions? All right, yes?
Who exactly is working on the solicitation of interest for the Clark House in the board? Is there one specific?
Well, right
or
now the supervisor is working with the town attorney. We have got somebody looking to prepare a document for a request for proposals. We'll be reviewing that over the next month and a half or so. And then that will probably go out to the general public. It'll be done through a public process. You'll see it on the website. You'll see it, there'll be documentation in the town clerk's office, the library. So it'll be pretty visible.
Okay, thank you.
Will we as a group, have any input into that process, or, the selection or criteria?
Well, I think it's going to be a function of, we will make you aware of who's providing material to us for review. We might get nothing. We might get things that are so crazy that we probably would not accept
But I
them.
mean, if we have a feeling what ought to be done there,
I think we would bring them back to you, and you could make a recommendation back to the town board, or send a memo to the town board identifying what your thoughts are with respect to the...
It sounds like that's going to happen soon.
Well, it'll probably happen in November when we actually send it out to the public. We may not get things back until Christmas time, somewhere around there. But certainly we'll keep you posted as to who submits something to us, and you'll have that information.
And you said that's a 5-acre parcel, just right in the corner, right?
Yes, it's hard to see, but there's a little white box down on the bottom there.
I do see it.
It encompasses 5 acres of it.
Okay.
Does it include the barn across the street?
The barn actually is part of that particular property, yes.
Okay.
And we will be submitting, right now, we're just kind of getting to know you, but we will have computers here, we'll have screens, projection screens, we're going to show you all sorts of things about the property. We will be talking about a site tour, or several site tours if necessary. So you're going to become very, very familiar with the property, and even parts of it that you thought you were familiar with that you may not be. And we're going to be giving you some background about the entire site. So. Okay. Want to talk a little bit about the welcome kit?
Before we do that, do we want to talk about potential meeting hours? If this is a good time to know?
Yeah, I guess that's a good idea. We had identified Tuesday nights as being the optimum time to do this. It's kind of a scheduling problem for us. We have meetings going on most of the week here. Tuesdays happen to be the one night when we don't have meetings in this particular block. We actually have set up Tuesday nights for our comprehensive plan update committee as well. And I know, Chris, you've probably got other nights that you're working on with the master plan.
We've been typically meeting on Wednesdays, so.
Okay. And we have town board meetings and zoning board meetings and planning board meetings here during the week, so it's kind of hard to get everybody together on one night. Tuesdays appear to be the best time to do it. So is everybody here comfortable with Tuesday nights? Right.
And is everyone comfortable with the time of 7 o'clock, or is something earlier desired by everybody? I know we're usually done by 5 o'clock upstairs, so we're here from 5 to 7 or waiting for the meeting to start, but if that works for other people, that's great. I just want to make sure we have a good start time for everybody, and that we allow ourselves enough time for that 2-hour meeting time that we've dedicated for this committee.
Eric, you
I was just gonna say, Tuesdays for me is particularly bad, but I understand, if it works best for everybody else.
Is there a time that's better for you on Tuesdays?
If
Would be
if people
5.
were willing to push it back later at all, that would certainly be 7:30 or 8, just another half an hour. Were you thinking that
You
we
bring me
would
coffee?
normally do? 7?
Well, I mean, if it's that much of a problem for you where it's a half an hour, it's not that horrible a thing for you to come in at a half an hour,
Okay.
but I know there's a lot of families here. You've got kids, so I don't know if it's,
I'd be concerned starting any later.
yeah, it's up to you as a group. We're just here to facilitate it, but if anybody wants to go earlier or later and you think it's worth it, or if you want to keep it the way it is, just let us know.
I'd like 7.
Yeah. I could do earlier, but I wouldn't want to do later.
I can do earlier as well. But
Earlier, but not later.
Want to help my wife get the kids down.
All right, so for the time being, why don't
Keep it at 7.
we keep it at 7 and see how it goes, and if we can change it at a later date.
We
to
can always
accommodate
adjust it,
everybody,
that's
we can
true.
do it. All right, so we'll lock in at 7. Don't, as I say, I mean, I know you'll be prepared. I've known you a long time, and I know that you're that person. But don't feel horrible if you can't get here right at 7. But certainly, the thing that you want to do is after the meeting, if we're not going to go back probably because we got too much to cover. But you'll be able to go back and we can send you the material or the video,
Okay.
and you can watch.
Yeah, I
the
mean,
video.
for me, it's a matter of potentially 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah,
so,
I
if that
wouldn't
wasn't a
lose sleep
problem.
over that if I were you. Okay.
And it would-
I think the important thing is just to be here. I mean, just to be here on a consistent basis. I recognize you have children, you have vacations, you have sickness, you have all sorts of things you got to deal with. We understand that. Just to have a high frequency of attendance is great. We all understand that not everybody will be here at every single meeting, and we don't expect you to be. But if you can have a high frequency of attendance, that's going to help us tremendously. Okay.
Are we going to be meeting every other week for the foreseeable future?
For the time being, yes, because we want to get you launched here a little bit, where you have some background, and then we'll talk about some meetings. We'll talk about some site visits and that type of thing to see what's good for everybody.
The site visits, you're gonna have to have it earlier so we can see.
Yeah.
Well, we may even talk about going on maybe on a Saturday morning or something like that for maybe an hour or something. We don't want to take up your entire lives, but you're right, it's not going to be very visible out here after another few weeks, and we may have to go out in the morning and just enjoy a nice walk on a Saturday morning for an hour or so.
We'll work on that the next meeting. Again, we're just trying to get all the welcome information out of the way for you. Okay.
We have talked a little bit about the history of the property. We're going to spend some more time. If you note that in the packet that Zach prepared for you, we did provide you with some old historical mapping of the property when it was farmland, and then it became the golf course. I think we started, what, 1960?
Yes, the maps range from 1970 up to 1999. It's decade by decade, but then it gets closer and closer since aerial imagery became more available in the 90s. So that's what the packet of maps that are stapled together that are all black and white. First one you see is 1970, and from there on, every 10 years, 5 as you get towards nearer times.
And we will be showing you these on projector screens and all sorts of other things. And certainly, as you're looking at all this stuff, we will be giving you a lot of information. That's why we gave you the folders. Please bring those folders with you. There'll be a lot of information. By the time you get done, you may need a second folder. So.
Bring our backpacks.
Bring your backpacks, yeah. So, and that's a good point. If you feel that you want to bring water, you want to bring something to eat while you're, if you haven't had dinner, don't feel the least bit concerned about that. Just bring it and enjoy your dinner if that's the case. You can work right through that.
While we're in here.
Yeah.
So while we're in your binders of everything else that you got tonight, you see the historic mapping we provided. The color maps that you see are kind of going out of order, but since we're on the topic of mapping, the first one that you'll see there is just a simple boundary map of the property with an aerial image turned on there. Just the red outlines the lands that were purchased by the town. And it's the same thing as you see up on our board over there as well. You go on to your next map, we have what's called our EPOD map. EPOD stands for Environmental Protection Overlay Districts. This is something that's enforced by the town of Penfield through all of our development that takes place. It's things like steep slopes, water courses, woodlots, wetlands, floodplains, things of that nature fall into EPODs. And what we've highlighted on this map is you have the steep slopes, you have a 100-year floodplain, national wetlands, our woodlots, and a water course layer as well. The steep slopes are highlighted in that red diagonal hash mark that you see. It's a little bit faded because the printer came out a little different than our computer screen. But these things will become available electronic to you as we go forward. Just things you want to think about as you go through this process with the EPODs is these are limiting factors on the site with the environmental concerns that we have. It's why we identified them that way. So when we talk about best land use, these are some areas that we like to preserve or try to not disturb through any sort of development that takes place on the lands. And then lastly, the least animated map that we have, this is our utilities in the area. It shows storm sewers, sanitary sewers, and the water lines as well. Kind of just gives you an idea of what's out there today in terms of utilities and resources. And that covers mapping. Any questions on that so far?
We're going to go over those in much more detail once we get you plugged in here.
Yeah, once we get an engineer here, they can talk more to the utilities. And also, if there is any mapping that comes up, and there will be, as the committee goes forward, you'll come up with themes or topics that you'd like to see mapped, and that's what we're here for. We can generate those types of maps. We can tell you if that information is available or if we have to go get it. But if you do have a map request, let us know, and we will work on that and get it generated for you.
I was going to say, you want to talk a little bit about, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Did you?
Go for it. What's next?
I was just talking about the ability to do the electronic mailing.
Yeah, I can tangent into that.
Let's do the rest of stuff.
Speaking of electronic things, one thing we talked about with our comp plan committee last week, and we wanted to bring it to this one as well. Obviously, we're starting out with hard copies here, so you got something to look at tonight. And as Jim said, we will have a projector and computer set up for next time and the foreseeable meetings. Just makes it a lot easier in terms of resources and immediate information, obviously. We will turn all this electronic to you as well. In the past, it's been easiest for us to use Google Drive. Is that an issue for anybody? If we send you an invitation link to view a shared folder that you guys could see all this information, we'll have it organized kind of how we have it in the office, and you have access to that wherever you go.
And if you have any problem, we'd be more than happy to help you, walk you through it, so it's not gonna be a big deal, but.
We'll
If
send
there's
it to.
any questions or concerns at all, just let us know. We'll can come over to your house and do it with you there if you want to do that.
We're here at a meeting.
We've
We got plenty of those coming up. I'll send it to the emails you've provided us. If you'd like a different email, just send one to me and we'll update that so I send it to the correct email you'd like to see that Google Drive link sent to. Okay?
We bring computers, can you access for wireless?
Yep.
Yep.
We got public Wi-Fi is here.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Go ahead.
As far as contact information goes, I did not intentionally omit the phone number here. If anybody wants to write down my phone number, I don't care. That was an accident, but, so we have everybody's emails and phones. Mine at the top there is 31. My cell, we don't have a home phone, so.
Very good.
I was gonna ask you about that after the meeting anyways, but thank you for jumping on that.
I must have just skipped that part.
What was it, Beth?
Yeah, we're gonna probably point that out for you in the video so that the rule doesn't go.
That's why I was gonna.
You'll be
Hi, everyone.
I'm sure there'll all be calls asking you
they're done
to
there
support
before.
some effort on the park's part.
Thank you.
We'll take care of that. We'll take care of that in post-production.
We have a very good team downstairs. All right, does anybody have any questions or any comments you want to make before we let you go home?
I got one more piece.
Oh, sorry.
The other piece of information that you have in your packet is the report that was generated from the Shadow Pines, Shadow Lake Advisory Committee during the moratorium process. To me, that's probably your homework tonight, leading into our next meeting, is to take a look at this. The goal of that committee, as Bob knows, was to come up with multiple options for the town board to consider while that property was still under moratorium. First and foremost, the option, as Bob said, was to purchase the property for town uses, be it active and passive recreation, preservation of open space, all that's outlined in here. And that's something I would encourage everyone to take a look at between now and our next meeting, just to get an understanding of what the moratorium committee accomplished and what was recommended to the town board, what's already out there, and has been reviewed and is available for your review as well. So take a look at that. The mapping, interesting to look at the historic mapping, I think. You'll kind of see change over time as you go through those. And if you have any questions, again, just let us know.
We will be sending you all the next agenda electronically, and you'll have some materials probably electronically as well, so you have time to review it before we come to the meetings. And if you have any questions, just let us know, and we'll answer any questions we can for you.
And look for those agendas to be emailed the Friday before the meeting. It's a nice reminder, a few days before the meeting takes place. If there's a conflict, let us know, and we'll be sure to send you whatever information you miss during that
Process
meeting.
type question. We had a lot of trouble getting the moratorium committee together and getting started in a way that was constructive, as you guys remember. Are we going to do is our process going to be informal, or do you have some structure that...
We have a little structure. It's not going to be as structured as what we experienced early on in the beginning of that process. I think it's more of an educational process for you to learn some things that you need to know about the town and how it operates, and zoning laws and some other things, even though zoning does not really play a major role here because the town owns the property and the town is exempt from its own zoning regulations. So I think we're all focusing on recreational opportunities for this site, whatever they may be. I mean, it sounds like there's a wide array of interest, and it's a matter of just coming to consensus as to what you think is an appropriate set of uses for that property.
Is there anything that's prohibited, restricted? I'm sure we'll have conversations, but I looked at, there were documents online that had environmental sampling reports, and then the Clark House.
We can go over all that with you, yes. And actually, the environmental aspects were not a problem. I
Okay,
mean,
and that's what I looked
we will
through
talk
them.
about
I
those,
just
yeah.
wanted
there were some minor things that the Clark House had to be addressed, but that was not a big deal. There was nothing on the property itself that would identify it as a contaminated site or anything of
Okay,
that
no
nature.
cleanup is
We
needed,
actually
no.
thought we might have had something early on based on hearsay from some neighbors.
Yeah, a lot of us thought the chemicals that the golf
Yeah.
course used would
And
be a problem.
I was able to walk through with our environmental consultants. Actually, I've got to say, Dolomite did a great job of securing pesticides, herbicides, that type of thing. It was all well contained, and but you can absolutely have access to that material if you want it.
Okay.
Yep.
I think they found that there was no more than a residential property.
That's right.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the levels were.
Right, the levels were
Wow.
comparable to your homes.
Yeah.
We had very good consultants, and they
Yeah.
kind of understood what was happening nationally with golf courses, because theoretically, I guess they spray the tee boxes a little bit more than normal.
And they said the area around the clubhouse too.
Yeah, and actually it turned out that it wasn't any worse or any better than anything else from a residential standing, so we were very lucky in that regard. But you will have access to all that information if you want it, and we'd be happy to give you whatever you need. Eric?
Yeah, do you plan to put together like a Google group or anything like that so that we could all communicate together outside of this?
I'm
Or
glad you-
mainly interested in keeping that?
I'm glad you bring that up. That was something I wanted to cover in his ground rules. I'd rather everyone did their discussion here. Obviously, people will talk offline. I'd rather that the group work as a group here. It makes it a lot smoother, much more transparent as well for you and the public when it comes to understanding what takes place here. We experienced some difficulties with our moratorium group when an email was sent out and then conversations just took off in emails. And it did not
Some
help.
people were excluded from the email, and it caused
There's
problems.
chances for that.
Yeah.
That certainly does happen. And then it does not help when we kick off a meeting by starting off with, well, he said, she said in an email. So obviously emails are a primary form of communication to give you information, and if you need to directly contact us as an individual with questions, but as a group, you'll find that it is easier to have those discussions here.
That being said, as we go through the process, and we might break down into subcommittees or something to address different issues, then those subcommittees would come back to us with certain recommendations or comments or concerns that you may have that we'd have to go through as a group and work those through together.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it being used more as just like if there's something that we're trying to produce over the couple of weeks between a meeting or something like that, just being able to coordinate with people that, yes, I'm done with my part of it. And
Yeah, that's a good point. As we get towards the end and we have to start preparing the final documentation for the town board, there may be sections that have to be written. You'll be doing the writing, so you may have to interact with people on your committee to get to a final product that you're comfortable with, to then bring back to this group and let them look at it. But yeah, that might happen as we get towards the end, yeah.
Good question, though. Thank you.
Between this meeting and our next meeting, would you prefer, even though I would love to start tomorrow, that we not approach various entities such as other towns and/or senior groups to get input? To wait until this is assigned
Well,
as
I'm glad you brought
subcommittee
that up,
interest?
because somewhere along the way here, we are going to have a public information meeting.
Okay.
And I prefer that, I don't want you to be prejudiced out by a public information
Okay.
meeting. I think I want you as a group to start thinking about what you think is important.
Okay.
Certainly, when we have that public information meeting, we'll incorporate their comments and their thoughts into the process as to where we're going. But I think I want you to start, you have to go through a little bit of an education process first. And once you get through that, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable making offerings and decisions on certain things. But I think I'd like to get you comfortable first before we go into that public information
Okay, so
meeting.
answer is no.
Hold off on that for now. But
Well, it's not that it's
Yeah.
no. It's
No,
just that
understandable.
you're going to get a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, when people know that you're on this committee, you're going to go to a party and somebody's going to grab you for 2 hours at the party in the corner saying, "This is what I think you should do," and you're going to say to yourself, "Why did I do this?" So I don't want that to have to happen to you yet. It's going to happen, but at least until you get a feel that you're comfortable with what you know about the property and what you know a little bit more about the town, I would just kind of keep a low profile.
Start going to Wegmans on the west side is what he said. It works. Maybe Brockport, something like that.
Have we ever used survey instruments to
Yes.
We have.
to capture
Yeah.
input? Okay, so that's a viable, rather than just the public meeting. I mean, okay, great.
Yep.
And there's
Yeah,
nothing that
you
says
said
we
you have a
can't.
bunch of comments already, people have been sending in, correct?
A handful.
They have, and actually, I think you may even have some in your...
Not tonight.
Oh, not tonight? So
No,
we'll
we're still
provide those with you.
processing those.
They're coming in on a daily basis, so you can imagine.
Yeah.
Some of them are great, some of them are kind of questionable, but still, even that being said, they should all be reviewed, and they should all be addressed and rated, so...
We should be open-minded to anything.
Absolutely.
Except full development in the houses.
Absolutely. No,
I think that was overwhelmingly rejected.
Yeah.
But be open-minded. Don't close your mind just because it's, it may not be right, it may be right, you don't know. Again, it's going to be a function of consensus. If majority of you all think that it's right, then we'll move forward as a recommendation. If you think that it's not, we'll move forward with something else. So you're going to be a team now. You're a team, and you got to act as a team and play as a team. So we will get as much to you as we possibly can. And as I say, don't be the least bit afraid to ask questions, or if you need additional information, whatever it might be, just let us know. We'll get it to you as quickly as possible.
And all three of us are coaches at one point in our life, so we're used to the team environment.
Has there been a lot of interest in the Clark House?
From the point in time that we actually purchased it to now, we've had several people, various types of businesses interested in it. It'll be interesting to see how much we get back once we send it out for the general review.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get a lot back, because it was a chance to pick and choose from a larger field. I wouldn't want to get 2 or 3 things back, and then we have to hope for the best out of the 2
Right.
or 3, And we have the right to reject it. If we don't like them, we have the right to reject them as a bid. I mean, just because they're offering it doesn't necessarily mean we have to accept it.
Okay.
It's got to fit in with the character of the neighborhood. It's got to be scaled to the neighborhood. It's got to be a benefit to the community, and it's got to be sustainable. We don't want something that's going to come in and be gone 6 months after it goes in. That doesn't help anybody.
And probably have some, I mean, it would have to have some kind of, not synergy, but whatever the recreation use is, we wouldn't
Not
want something.
incongruous.
Yeah, not incongruous with whatever we decide.
Yeah, and, it's going to have to be a function of what the bidders are willing to do to upgrade the property as well.
Yeah.
And I suspect that we're going to have to work out details for, some type of a length of a lease for them, so if they're putting money into it, they're going to be able to get the return on it.
Yep.
You can't just give them a 6-month lease and expect to put $100,000 worth of improvements into the property.
So bidding would just be for leasing, not for purchase?
At this time, no. We're just going to lease the property out. Yeah.
Do you have a targeted list of people that you're sending the RFP to right now? Are there a handful of interested parties?
We're going to send it out to everybody who's shown interest. We're going to send it out on our website. We're going to send it out so the public knows, the general public knows that we're interested in it. And I'm sure the newspapers will be more than happy, and the news will be more than happy to do that. They've been on everything that we've talked about since day one. So I'm sure it'll be a big issue media-wise for them to know that there's interest in the Clark House.
Andy, I'm wondering, has the town board taken a position on that? Is the objective to be cost neutral to the town, or?
I think we want to see what's out there and who's interested in the property. And as Jim said, if proposals come in and it's just not the right time or the right feel, we have every right to just say we're not proceeding ahead with any of these, and then we'll wait until the appropriate time to do it again. So yeah, I think we want to see what level of interest. People can talk all they want, but when it comes to actually putting in a proposal, then you decide who's really serious and who's not real serious, and we'll make a decision at some point. But we're not going to rush into this. And Jim, if I can, I apologize. I neglected to introduce myself. I'm Andy Moore. I'm on the town board, and really can't thank everybody enough for your time. I'm really excited about this committee. I think we've got a great group of individuals that bring a lot of talents and a lot of different perspectives to the recommendations ultimately. It's interesting because there's going to be a lot of opinions, and some of those emails and stuff that Jim was talking about, some of them are just going to make you laugh, quite honestly, and some of them you're going to be like, no way would we ever do something like this, and you may know what I'm talking about when you see it. But anyways, consensus is going to be important because we're going to have a difference of opinion on things, and compromise is going to be critical. And, just because Ginny may advocate for something, Jeff may not, and somewhere we all got to kind of decide, what works and what doesn't work. And I've always maintained the perspective compromise is everybody gets a little bit of what they want. And I think at the end of the day, I'm confident we can put together a plan, or you can put together a plan that really is looking at the best interest of the town. I mean, this referendum won with 80%. I mean, that's an overwhelming community support for this initiative. It's not a NIMBY support. I could not have been happier that it was 80%.
And the turnout was huge.
Absolutely. I mean, it showed overwhelming community support for this. And so, we kind of have to take a step back and realize that we're looking at it from a community-wide perspective and what's going to be the benefit for that. I grew up on Huntington Meadow, lived there 20-plus years. My parents were there. As some of you said before, I saw Shadow Pines go from just open fields to Gentle's Farm Market, doing their corn, they're growing corn, to the golf course. I kid you not, I think I know every square inch of that place, being a young boy and having parents that let us run around a lot. So, and I live on Jackson Extension right now with my wife and 2 kids. So I think this group's got a great opportunity. I'm really excited about everybody on this committee. And, all I'll say is, we've got one chance at making this right. And I think that we just need to take that seriously. And if it needs to take a little extra time, okay, that's all right. If we can come to some decisions right away, that's good too. But, we've just got one opportunity to make this right and to make a decision that's going to impact this town for generations. And I'm excited, and I hope you are too, and I hope you're willing to put the time and energy into it, because it's going to be pretty neat. There's no doubt about it. So thank you.
Andy, one question.
Yes.
Can you speak to what will happen after, so, we create a report at the end of this process for what the town does, and say that all gets implemented exactly as we intended, and, that's all well and good, but what happens 5, 10, 15 years from now? How does the property continue to progress? Because it's not just going to be what we implement and then stay that way for the next 30 years, right?
I definitely think that we have to look at the financial side of what the recommendations may be moving forward. I think that's only fair. Because, as Tony said, everything that comes with a cost. And, I look at it from baby steps. And, what we can do based on the recommendations of the town board and implement them in steps. I'm perfectly prepared to do that. I'm sorry if I'm stepping out of my bounds here, but I don't feel a rush to jump into something right away. I think, we need to just do it right, and we need to do it well thought out. And so certainly some recommendations that may come forward may have a big number behind it. I don't know. And so a part of the recommendation that I would ask that this committee do, and Bob knows it well from the Moratorium Committee, is to think about the financial implications and how are we going to fund that, and where's that money coming from. And we can talk about that. The finance director, Barbara Cherto, can be a part of future meetings to talk about funding mechanisms and grants and things like that, or whatever. Wherever the conversation goes, we can start to plug away at that accordingly and put together a solid plan.
You do make a good point, though. Obviously, we're going to put together something that, kind of flows for the time being to accommodate our needs. But then, we might, it'll be a living plan. I mean,
Right.
things, since you were a kid, some of the technology in recreation has come along, things that we never even thought about when we were younger is now, second nature to most of the kids that are running around here. So, technology changes, needs change. As Andy said, we might be able to get grants through the state programs. I know Chris works on that a lot. We might look at possibly having private vendors come in to provide certain services, and they would pay for those services to be implemented. So there's a lot of ways to do it. It all comes down really, though, initially, a year ago we didn't own the property. Now we own it. Now it's a function of, you've got to come up with some ideas that you think are viable and are a benefit to the community to put in place. And certainly as time goes on, we can modify that to accommodate whatever comes down the road.
And uses can be very different between the front nine and the back nine because they're totally different properties, you know, and so, and that's a part of the conversation. Okay, maybe this element works on the front nine and, okay, that's an agreement, and something else maybe for the back nine. I don't know. That's all a part of the future discussion that this group will have, and we'll see where it goes.
So will there be other committees that are formed in the future to kind of steer how things go, or
I think,
will this committee stay together, you know?
well, I think this committee's purpose right now is to make those recommendations as a part of the community. You're all community members, and that's why you're here. You know, I don't know what the future holds as far as, you know, will there be other committees? Well, you know, the town board will make that decision at an appropriate time, but
It's much like right now when we created Harris Wayland Park, and we created Greenwood Park, and we created Rothers Park. Those were all, what do we do with them now? We need to have an idea of what to do, and we had people looking at that for us, just as you are.
Right.
After a while, you know, it kind of grows into the community as to what it is, and then they go with the master plan for the rec every 5 years. That group will probably be instrumental in figuring out what happens down the road on a 5-year basis for this area as well.
And then we have the comprehensive plan every 10 years as well. So townwide master plan looks at that. It incorporates the rec master plan. It incorporates recommendations from this committee as well, the reports from this. So there's kind of ongoing status checks of all the work that's been done in the past to see, is it good? Do we need to update it? What's next?
Okay.
Are we going to
Jim, when you did the major projects like Harris Wayland and Rothfuss, did you have the services of professional consulting firms to help
Yeah, I
in
think
that?
Tony Kotz for many years was involved.
It's for sure. I can't get back there as well.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking it might be something we ought to entertain the thought of.
It might be a recommendation to
Getting some
have a
hard
consultant come in.
professional advice on how to deal with it all.
Yep. Somebody had another question.
Yeah, are we going to be able to collaborate at any time with the Comprehensive Planning Committee?
Yes, you might, by the time you're done here, especially with what Chris is doing with the rec plan, you might be a little bit ahead of them because they're looking at every aspect of this community. They're not looking at Shadow Pines per se. They're letting you do that. But certainly if you have questions or concerns or things that you want to bring to that group, you can certainly do that.
I certainly have some concerns about zoning, getting this property. They said you don't need to worry about it, but. Yeah,
Well, not on this
maybe we
property.
do. Yeah.
Town-owned property is exempt from all zoning. I mean, this property right here is zoned R1. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, we can do whatever we need to do here based on the fact that it's for the community good. It should be for the community good. So.
Is there any information that is going into the Park and Rec's master plan that would be beneficial for us to know?
Absolutely. And when they get their recommendations put together for you, we're going to bring them to you so you can see what's going on there.
And to go back, even things like, you know, we're in the process tomorrow night, we should finalize the needs assessment survey that we plan to distribute, so some of that data may be of interest, or, you know, there may be.
If there's gaps in needs and.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why the town wanted persons like Chris on the committee and Jim and Zach and so forth, is because they're working with the other committees too. So any of those synergies that you were talking about before, they'll be able to give us a heads up on that, or they'll be able to say, hey, you know, the park and the park master plan is starting to go down this road. I want to make this committee aware of that and things like that. So there's a lot of synergies, I guess, is the only word I can think of.
Is there still a Trails Committee?
There still is.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Yep.
I forgot to mention I'm on.
I was just saying, you got a member sitting right next to you.
I thought about
Right
that.
behind you.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by Trails Committee members.
Please take the time and read the Moratorium Committee report. I mean, the committee did a fantastic job putting this together, and it really will give you a good foundation, a good head start moving forward.
And I got to tell you, it was not easy.
We had a lot of people.
It was not easy.
Oh,
No.
Bob, you remember we had a lot of people at that table.
Yep.
Yeah, it was not easy.
So there's two recommendations. There's really three. Recommendation 1, recommendation 2. You should take a
Are your
look
meetings
at.
open? Your meetings are open to the public. So if anybody wants to give up a second night, you're more than welcome to listen to what they have to say.
Where is it here?
No, it's at the community center.
Center of Family
Yep.
Department?
Yep.
What time is that, Chris?
We meet tomorrow night's 5:30. Tomorrow night's earlier than normal. Normally we're at 6, but tomorrow night's 5:30.
We should be bringing all that information back to this group, and we'll be sending it out to you before.
And actually, if you want to see all of our information, our meeting agenda and meeting minutes are on our website. So if you go to the Penfield Rec site, you'll actually see a master plan link. You can click on that and all of our agenda minutes are on there.
And all of your stuff is going to be on the website as well. I mean, as we move forward and get you going, we will be plugging everything into the website so that you and everybody else can see what you're up to.
To what Chris said, I just need to follow up. We won't have minutes for this, but we do have the video. I think that does us a little more justice than minutes because it's really tough for us as staff to capture everything verbatim. Obviously, high-level notes are there, but our agenda kind of dictates that as well. So just to put that out there for everybody. Also, if you do attend these meetings, typically they're for public observation only, not for public input. But as committee members, there might be something to come down the road where we have to elect someone to be kind of a liaison who may have to be invited or asked to sit with either the comp plan committee. Thank you for bringing it up, Susan. Or to witness something at the master plan, the rec master plan, and just to establish that interaction. Obviously, staff is here to help you with that, but maybe that's something we look at the next meeting or the following meeting to say, all right, I'd like to, help out where I can and at least listen to what the comp plan committee has to say, what they're learning and what they're talking about, and go from there.
That comp plan committee is going to be going through a very intensive educational program.
Are they on video?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, just like you. You can watch everything. I think your learning process will be a lot quicker than their learning process because there's just so much that they need to digest at this point in time.
So before we go, homework before our next meeting, as Andy said, take a look at the committee's report. Also, think about most likely Saturdays, preferably Saturday mornings, that are good for you for site visits, multiple of them, front 9, back 9, sometimes we split them up. I know I've walked it a couple times and usually you save one for one day, one for the other. Walking all 18 is not everyone's ideal morning. So just keep that in mind, come with dates and times that are available. And also, in the back of your head, perhaps think about guests you might want to bring in to future meetings. A lot of that will be based on the education we provide you at the next meeting. But if you have something, write it down, think about it, bring it with you to the next meeting. Same thing with any general notes or ideas that you want to talk about. Don't lose track of them. Write it down, put it in the notes app of your phone, write it on the agenda. Don't lose track of those things. They're all good things to talk about when we meet back at this table. Okay?
Is the next meeting next week or in 2 weeks?
Following.
2 weeks.
We're going to give you a week off.
There's at the bottom of the agenda.
Yeah, on the agenda, there's
Oh, there it
suggested
is. Okay.
attend for the next 3 meetings.
Okay.
And then we'll also start talking about possible public information meeting dates too, as we get further into this, so that you can attend those meetings and hear what the public has to say. It's in this room, it's at the dais under the town board supervision where the public's allowed to come in and provide their suggestions.
So we strongly urge you to attend those meetings. Sometimes people don't come, but it's really important that you come. It's just a good show of strength for you as a group, and it gives you the ability to listen to people firsthand as to what their concerns and what their ideas are. So it'd be good to have you at this meeting.
Will all meetings be here?
Pretty much,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless we have
go on
a
a site tour or
visit.
something.
Okay.
Thank you for the organized materials and meeting. I
You're welcome to
appreciate
organize
that.
it any way you want. There's tabs and name thingies in there for all that stuff, so go crazy with it.
Please let us know if you need a second one as we go further along. I hope you don't, but you might.
Never know.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
First turnout.
You want these?
You can leave your name tags, but the blue binders are yours.
Leave them? Okay.
Take care of everything.